You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh, how
you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Yeah, you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. Covered in gray and scarlet, massive, stiff arms to your jaw. We breaking it. We sick of seeing you clowns with the crown. We taking it.
What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devin. That's Mello. Crap, dude. That's Mello. And tonight, we got another special guest for you, man. We got Sam from the show College Football with Sam down below, man. We're excited to have him on here. I know everybody in our chat knows who this gentleman is, so we've been chatting it up before the show. We're going to dive into a couple things, but before we get there, Sam, welcome. How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. We appreciate you joining. Mello, what up, bro? How are you?
Man, I'm good. Excited to talk football with Sam. I've been watching this show for a few years now. It's always good to have someone that might be from another fan base, but uses logic instead of emotion when they discuss the sport of college football, which we all three of us obviously clearly have a passion for. So I'm looking forward to this conversation we're going to have with him. And a nation, if you don't know who Sam is, I suggest you give him a follow. This dude, he's borderline genius with it. Like some things that he has called, I'm like, how do you even think that? And then it comes true, and I'm like, wow, yeah, you got me beat on that one.
Thank you.
we were talking before we came on live here, and that's one of the things I enjoy. Now, don't get me wrong, I despise scum. I'm not going to say it on live air. I said it for Sam a couple times before we started here, but I despise him, right? But I love if there's a fan that roots for him that wants to have a logical conversation about football. That's what I love, man. I love football, so I'll sit down and do it. So, it's awesome to have somebody else on here, man, to talk some football about. So, couple housekeeping items real fast. The annoying stuff, man. Hit that like button, bro, if you could, please, man. And, hop in the live chat if you're watching. You've never been in the live chat, hop in there, man. Get chatting it up with some of these guys. Get to know them. Really good people in there, man. So start talking to them. And take a second, stop right now, and share this feed on your Twitter, on your Facebook, and on your Instagram for us. That's a huge help, man, because it helps us reach out to so many different people. So that helps us out, man. Super chats are up and running as always. Our memberships are up and running. So YouTube tried shutting us down there for a minute with making me verify. I pretty much had to go get my doctorate degree to get verified by YouTube, but I did it. That's what I had to go do. I went and did it. We good to go now, man. So yep. I want to start off. There's several things we're going to talk about tonight. We got a pretty cool show planned for you because we're going to hit on a couple different subjects. But because we love the Buckeyes, I've got to get Sam's opinion on what happened this year with the Buckeyes. We natty champs, baby. We won the national title. So I kind of want to start at the beginning, man. This year everybody was talking about Ohio State's roster, the $20 million roster, and natty or bust type season. And then the season started. And I know us fans are a little bit like, oh, dang, what the heck's going on, man? Where's this high-powered offense at? Sam, give me your opinion. The beginning of the year, what did you think of Ohio State? Where were your expectations for them?
Well, in the preseason, before everything started, I kind of got the feeling that this team was going to be similar to last year's team. Elite defense, a great offense, but not elite. I thought that Jeremiah Smith would be really good. I thought he would actually be a top 10 wide receiver, but not, the number one wide receiver in the country like he turned out to be. I kind of thought it was lunacy that the roster was being cast as by some as the best in Buckeye history. And I think that actually not just the early part of the season, I think in large part the entirety of the season actually showed that no, it was not. But As the season progressed, it became clear to me that the O-line was good. It became clear that Will Howard was definitely developed and trained well by Chip Kelly and Day. The defense was clearly nearly elite, a little bit different than the prior year, but still very, high-flying, fast, physical. And then the Oregon game happened. That was a 1-point loss, but I felt like at the time that maybe the defense was exposed. But then after that game, the defense was basically as good as it could be, given the roster and players for the rest of the year. And as for the offense, I thought even they, after the Oregon game, improved in some areas. It's just the injuries held them back. And then the Michigan game, I don't even know what that was. That was one of the worst football games I've ever watched from an objective point of view. Then the playoffs happened. And the offense and the defense and the coaching is just clicking. And that's how you get 14-2 and a national championship in Ohio State's first since 2014 and their third of the 21st century.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, it was what you just described was a roller coaster, right, that us Ohio State fans had to go through, man, because I was at that Oregon game. That was a very heartbreaking loss. I've said this a couple times. It's almost like I would have rather just lost by 14 points. It would have been less painful for me, right? But we didn't. And then, like you said, man, that the Michigan game, it's unexplainable still to this day as to what the heck happened. But ultimately, man, you said something that spiked my interest a little bit, because you stated that because of the beginning of the year, we got to see that this was clearly not one of Ohio State's best rosters that they've ever had. Me as an Ohio State fan, now, a little bit biased here because I've spent a lot of time with this team, studying this team, following them in recruiting, the whole 9 yards. With what they were able to do at the end with the run that they went on with the top 5 teams, all double-digit wins, the whole 9 yards, I do put them in that category of one of the best rosters to ever come through Ohio State. But, I like that you brought that up, because that's where we were at the beginning of the year. I feel like we kept seeing like a 70% Buckeye team all the way up until maybe the Penn State game. Maybe we had a little bit more than 70% from them. Yeah. Even the Indiana game, we weren't clicking on offense. Like we won by a good margin, but that's just how I felt. Mello, what's your thoughts?
I thought we didn't really see a full version of this team until the Tennessee game, and I had my apprehensions before that game because of just the O-line injuries. I came on here and I said, if the O-line plays just average, we win this game by double digits. They play way better than average. And I think also the scheme and the play calling helped tremendously with the O-line. And also, we beat up Justin Fry a lot. We didn't think he was developing that well. We didn't think he was recruiting elite. And obviously he was developing pretty well, because O-line did amazing to go through that run and to beat 5 top 5 teams and 6 top 10 teams in one season, which hasn't been done. So for me, I feel like this was our best championship for me in the past 3. And then I would have to go 2002, 2014. I actually want to know what's your thoughts on that. Out of those 3, how would you rank them in terms of the national champions?
Well, are we talking power ratings, or how impressive the season was?
Just who would you pick?
Who would beat who?
Oh, okay. Well, then 2002 is below both 2014 and 2024, I think, pretty easily.
That's what I have. Yeah.
2014 and 2024 is so tough, because the 2014 team probably had a lot more first rounders, at least at the current time. But I also think that the 2024 defense was just probably the best unit on the field by a pretty sizable margin. So I would probably, that's such a tough spot. I'm going to go with 2024 by a hair, then 2014, then big drop off 2002.
Yeah, so for me, how I was doing it was most impressive. So for me, it's 2024 because it was the new 12-team playoff. We had to win four on the road, and we had to have hardest path. Um, 2002 is number two for me because they beat that Miami team that hadn't lost a game in almost 2 years, and that was full of studs. Nobody picked us to win, and that to me is a catalyst of where we are today. They built off of that. The recruiting started changing from that moment on. The coaching was elevated even more. And then,
Mello, I think your mic, is it just me or is his mic muffling up a little bit?
It's a little bit muffled up.
oh,
Little
maybe I
bit
need
muffled.
to move
Yeah.
closer.
There you go. Yeah,
You hear me now?
Yep, you're
Yep.
good now.
All right, so for me, it was 2024 just because of the path we had to take. We had the most difficult path. We had to play the most elite teams just to win the whole thing. Then 2002, that team was not supposed to win it. We played a team that hadn't lost a game in almost 2 years that was superbly talented. Um, and it was the catalyst that built up to 2024 in terms of recruiting and coaching. Everything stepped up a notch, and I feel like we built off of that 2002 team. And then 2014 would be my third one. Yes, I think they were uberly talented as well, but I just feel like this 2024 team is just special. Just the whole vibe and aura around the whole team and program right now is just on a different level.
Yeah, all of them fantastic teams. Obviously won a national title. The interesting thing about we had a discussion with the 2002, a couple players from the 2002 team. They brought up a good point.
Yep.
They didn't have an option but to win every game. They didn't, they couldn't lose. And that brings me to my next point, Sam. I kind of want to ask you kind of your thoughts on the 12-team playoff, but I'll ask you like this. What's your thoughts? A lot of people don't want to give Ohio State the credit because they say, well, they lost 2 games. Well, they didn't win the Big Ten title. Well, they didn't beat the rival. What are your thoughts on the 12-team playoff, and what would you say to that? Do you give them credit? Do you look at them as like the best team in the nation, or where are you at with that?
Well, of course I look at them as the best team in the nation because the analytics say they're the best team in the nation, and they won the trophy in the way that it is designed. Now, do I think they're like the greatest team of all time? Like, heck no, because you can't lose to that caliber of Michigan team. And that Oregon team was, like, for a typical 13-1 team, I'd say maybe a little bit weaker. Power ratings would agree with that. And this was just kind of a down year in football where Ohio State at the end of the day was kind of the exception to that down year portion, in large part because they had a good roster cohesion, a genius coaching staff, depth, experienced starters. I think the 12-team playoff could be great. It could be one of the better things to happen in college football. I think the same with an 8 or 16-team playoff. But the problem is I think it's a little bit mismanaged, and I don't like the seeding and the guarantee to have the G5 team in, or the auto buys, or well, the auto buys aren't as big of a deal. It's more so the guaranteed buys for the highest ranked conference champions, because not all conferences are created equal.
Clearly, yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts there. I don't get why people would discredit Ohio State's national championship. Like, they won it, and they that's really all that matters. I mean, if you want to have a debate about how would you rank the national champions, I mean, maybe that's where it comes up, the 2 losses, but that's not who's won it all. Like 2007 LSU won it all with 2 losses, and that's a national champion that fan base should be proud of and is proud of. And the same thing should be the same thing with Ohio State.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, the way everybody words it, and by I mean everybody, I mean mostly Michigan fans, they say, if this was a 4-team playoff, Ohio State wouldn't even have been in there. But yesterday I went on this big rant of saying, well, luckily for us, it wasn't if. You could throw so many ifs in the college football, dude, and just make everybody look like they suck. If, so that's not a game we want to play.
It's like if Kyle McCord doesn't throw a pick in 2023, Michigan loses. It's like that. No one cares. Like, he threw a pick. It's fun to play hypotheticals, but they're not a valid argument.
No.
So my question for you, Sam, just transitioning a little bit, I want to talk about your program, the team that you root for. So what are your expectations for this team next year? I've been told by several Team Up North fans that you guys are going to be 12 deep on the defensive line, and that your offense is going to be firing, and you guys have elite talent everywhere across the board. That I really was just told that recently.
Really?
So how do you see the season playing out, and do you see Bryce Underwood being a major part of that success if you have it?
Okay, whatever person told you that is not speaking facts, because if they were with Bryce Underwood, then this might be the greatest team of all time, because I think Bryce Underwood could be that good. But the reality is Michigan doesn't have many receivers that I care about unless Donovan McCulley is healthy and 100% healthy. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are overstating the departures on the D-line. Like, they're huge. But the reality is that Michigan had, like, the only generational D tackle room nationally. So when you're losing 2 generational D tackles and then you have, we all saw the ReliaQuest Bowl where their backups were destroying Alabama's 5-star starting offensive line. The D-line will drop off, and it may even be a severe drop-off. But I also believe that D-line was so good that a D-line that is not nearly as good as the 2024 Wolverines unit was is probably still, like, up there.
Yeah.
I think that linebacker and DB should probably improve based off of returning production alone. More importantly, though, the strides they made later in the year were good and encouraging. Tight end will drop off. Running back will drop off. But with the O-line bringing back what it does and how they've been recruiting, I imagine the run game might improve. The main thing about Michigan is the quarterback next year. Ryan Day's beard is someone who's often been on the channel and also a moderator of the channel. So I just wanted to shout out.
Heck yeah.
For being here.
I'm going to shout him out one more time. You can keep going. Thanks for the Buckeye Boys membership, Ryan Day's beard. Appreciate you, brother.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the name of the account. I love the profile.
What'd you see? He changed the name now. Did you see the thing he added in there?
Beard. That's funny. Yeah, I think that for Michigan, not reaching the playoffs next year means the season is a failure, because the schedule is not the easiest in the world, but it's easier than last year's. It's opportunistic, and Michigan should have more roster talent, at least in a sense of talent that matters, than everyone they play except OSU. And the OSU thing is no longer just about, like, who's the more physical team or who's the better team. It's a mental thing. For whatever reason, whether it's like one that makes sense or one that doesn't, Michigan kind of has that same mental lock over OSU that Tressel and Urban had over Michigan for a while. I think that's what last year's performance showed. So if Michigan doesn't win 10 games, the season's automatically a joke. If they don't go 10-2 or maybe 9-3, like 8-4, anything less than that's a failure automatically.
Yeah. I got to back up real fast. Well, first, Sean Rollins, appreciate you for the $10. Heck yeah, man, super chat. Our super chats, just a reminder, half of them go to Teen Challenge, the nonprofit organization that helps people who struggle with drug addiction. The other half go to help homeless vets. So anything you guys give to us will go to them. Donald and Karen Rochbrook, appreciate the 5 Buckeye Boys memberships that you gifted. We got so many members now. People have been gifting memberships left and right. We appreciate y'all for doing that. I got a couple questions for you. Just a quick step backwards. I want your outside opinion of Ryan Day as a coach, where he would rank nationally, the Nick Sabans, the Dabo Swaneys. Where's Ryan Day to you?
He is number 2 behind Kirby Smart, only because Smart has won an additional title and has on an average basis probably fielded better teams in recent memory. By recent memory, I don't mean the past year, because that would be inaccurate. I mean like the past several years. Like since 2021, about the same, maybe slightly better teams. I mean, an opinion of mine that many people have pushed back on is I think 2023 Ohio State was the second best team in the country, and people just never remember that because the Missouri game was ugly. That's where I have Ryan Day. I think he's clear cut number 2. There's probably a small argument somewhere for him to be number 1, but that's if like you really want to, I think, push it.
Yeah, I got you. Dang, dude, I was so excited to ask the other question that I had for you, and it has disappeared from my mind, but it'll pop back up. But I wanted to, you touched on something earlier, and you said that this year didn't really look like there was a dominant team out there till Ohio State came like later in the game and was that exception on the year. I have always stated, my opinion is that we're going to see more and more of this as college football goes along because of the transfer portal and because of the way college football is set up. I wanted to get your opinion on that. Do you think we're going to be seeing the clear cut, the LSU team, the Joe Burrow LSU, the Georgia 2-time national title teams? Like, do you think we're going to be seeing teams like that, or do you think this transfer portal and nil and the way everything is set up, the playoffs and whatnot, is kind of evening the playing field a little bit?
It's evening the playing field a little bit, but I do think you will see a GOAT team at some point. I don't know when that will be. I don't know if it will happen, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think you'll see one again. I mean, I think that like next season, for example, like 2025, let's say there's a hypothetical universe where Abdul Carter returned to Penn State and then they had Jeremiah Smith and not whatever receiver they had. With that coaching staff.
And not Drew Aller.
Well, he has a long way to go. No, you're good. He has a long way to go, but he's talented enough to where if he's well coached and has a good receiver, he could be, he could be wonderful. I think that Kirby Smart under Georgia, more importantly, because I think Penn State, a lot of my anticipated success for them is due to their staff and also the fact that they have an old roster. Georgia just kind of out recruits everyone. Texas is now at that level. Ohio State, not quite the same as Georgia, but like in that like tier 1B where they out recruit everyone. Definitely they do at wide receiver. And wide receiver is kind of this interesting position now because the meta of the game is not like, can your wide receivers just get behind the DBs and can you outscore everyone? The meta is game control. So that's something that I think made Ohio State's job this season actually even more impressive than some believe, is they kind of defied half of the meta for winning a championship. They fit the defensive bill. That's easy. That's said and done. But the way their offense functioned, I don't think fit what Michigan or Georgia did over the previous 3 seasons to win it all. It's kind of the inverse of that, where we're going to use our skill guys, and they're physical too, but they're also just that much like faster and better than you. I hope I'm not getting too off topic. But
Nah,
keep
bro.
going.
Yeah, you're good, dude.
Yeah. I think that you are going to see a GOAT team at some point, because whether it's 2001 Miami from the early 2000s, and that was complete chaos, whether it was the 90s where we got, 95 Nebraska, or there's a Bob Devaney team from I think the 80s or 70s that's considered a very dominant team. You'll see them pop up. I don't think they'll pop up as frequently as they did in the 2000s and maybe the early 2020s, because like 2020 Bama, 2021 Georgia, and then 15 Georgia, not 15 Georgia, but they were 15-0, 22 Georgia, and 23 Michigan were all teams that either by record and undefeated combined with analytics, some would consider them amazing teams. But you'll see them, I think. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, a team like Ohio State, obviously, still retaining a ton of talent. And this year's team, if they beat Oregon and beat Michigan and maybe figured some of these things out earlier, may also be up there if they did those things.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Literally that right there. If we would have seen this team able to find that cohesion and this coaching staff able to find that cohesion at the beginning of the year, we saw what they did. I have no doubt that they would be in that category of one. I think the only thing that holds them back from being put in this category to most, they're in the category to me, but I might be a little biased, right? They're in the category of a GOAT team to me because I see the talent and I saw what they were able to do when they started playing with some cohesion and got to know each other a little bit. So, literally, the only thing is those 2 losses, right? If they squeak those losses out by 1 point with what they did in the playoffs, I think they're being talked about like some of the, the past teams, the LSU, the Georgia teams that you're bringing up. And I agree with you. I think we're going to see, those GOAT teams as well. I just I don't think it lasts as long as before, and I just think that I think overall the playing field is way more even. You might still have those 1 or 2 teams that are up, but I think the next bracket down is going to consist of a lot more teams than before. But I got to give a shout out. My mom and dad said they were watching on here. I've never seen them in the live chat before, so shout out mom and dad. And Mark, bro, you're awesome, bro. $100 super chat, man. Thanks for all you do, boys. Yeah, man. We do this because of y'all, man. Thank you guys for what you do for us. It's a lot. It's exciting to come in here and shoot, dude. When we first started, there was 20 people showing up for the show, and we were stoked about that. I would still be stoked about that, but there's way more of you now, so we appreciate that. But Mello, what's your thoughts?
So my thoughts, I'm leaning differently from both of you. So I'm taking a page from Urban Meyer. He said the way he judges teams and how great they are is the NFL draft will tell you. So that's the first metric. When we go and look at the careers that these guys are about to have in the NFL, in my opinion, I think people are going to look back and be like, yeah, that team was the best ever, one of the best ever. And how did they lose those 2 games? That's what it's going to come down to. I think when you look at Caleb Downs, light-skinned Ed Reed is what I call him. He's going to be, to me, if he stays healthy, future gold jacket. It's in his genetics. Like his uncle had a long career. His dad played in the NFL. His brother's in the NFL. He has like 2 or 3 cousins playing major Division I football right now that people don't even know that are playing. When he was 4, he was going and diagramming plays with his G.I. Joes. What 4-year-old doing that on their own? Obviously, Optimus Prime, I think if he stays healthy, he will end up being the best receiver, considered the best receiver ever.
Yes.
Depending on his situation as quarterback. I think Travion Henderson is going to have a long career. Q, as long as they stay healthy. Donnie Jackson, what he did going from guard to tackle and not giving up any pressures or sacks is ridiculous. Moving on from Penn State, that is. Abdul Carter, I think, is the best defensive edge in college football. So I'm judging from that, and I think this is a GOAT team. And I think next year, people, if Julian Sayin is what they're saying he is, I think you could see Ohio State on a dynastic run right now.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, it comes down to that, just like Sam said earlier, what's Bryce Underwood going to be? Well, what's Julian Sayin going to be? You know what I mean?
And at the end of the day, with the Bryce Underwood situation, I think Bryce is going to be a beast. I don't care. Like, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I know every head-to-head he had with Tavian St. Clair, he got cooked to the point he didn't even show up to the final Elite 11. So, I mean, I still feel confident there.
Yeah. Sam, I asked you about Day. You've professed to be a Michigan fan, and, I learned that before the show. So I got to ask you about Sharon Moore and your confidence there. And then I know we got about 10 minutes left with you, so I want to dive into the real juicy subject that got boosted today with an article that came out. So first, Sharon Moore, where's your confidence level at? And I know you don't have much to go on.
That's probably my confidence level right there is probably accurately expressed with the sigh. I think that it's very hard to judge because it's not Florida State disaster. That's one end of the spectrum. It's not Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas in terms of like program stature. So that's the other end of the spectrum. I'd say probably my confidence level is, I'd say, like a straight 5 out of 10. Maybe if I had to choose one way or the other, maybe a 4 over a 6. I think that, look, I mean, I think the coordinators are just like good. Maybe they can be great, but not elite. And then the assistant coaching, I have a lot of questions about. And yeah, I mean, I think that losing Harbaugh was a big deal. It was always going to be a big deal. And I think that at the end of the day, it's neat. It's neat that Michigan's recruiting at the level they're at, like now. Like that's a good thing that the staff is doing. But at the end of the day, if you're not, if you're not coaching well, if you're not developing well, well then does that matter outside of like beating teams who are just so below you in talent that they're not even like, you just should beat them? I have a hard time. I have a really hard time judging him because on one hand, Ohio State did play into Michigan's hands, but on the other hand, Texas tried to do what Michigan did, and they had the personnel to do it. They still lost. Notre Dame was another like elite defense, and they kind of got, buried. And I think Penn's like, the fact that he beat that team is just something on its own. And then the Alabama game was good, encouraging, but at the end of the day too, how interested was Alabama in being there? So like, were they giving their A effort? Didn't look like it. So I don't know. I'm excited for this year to see what Michigan can do. I mean, I think at the end of the day that Bryce Underwood is going to be really, really good, even as a true freshman. I think that the way Michigan's recruited O-line and the way that their O-line, they were up and down last year, but at times they looked promising. They should be better. The defense should probably be top 10. But at the end of the day, what I care about, not just as a Michigan fan, but even as an objective analyst, it's Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. I actually kind of classify personally Georgia as a blue blood now because I don't think they're going anywhere for the next decade or so.
Yeah.
Michigan, Penn State, USC, and there's probably like a bunch of other teams like Oklahoma, Texas, you got Nebraska, I think USC I didn't mention. For all the blue bloods, at some point you want to get back to winning a title because you've been there, you've done that for several years. Nebraska, topic for a different day, but they're so behind right now. They just have to focus on like winning.
Yeah.
But do I see Michigan like winning a title under Sharon Moore? Honestly, my answer right now is no. Like I don't. Even though it looks like they're going to upgrade their talent profile to what Harbaugh teams had, Michigan's 2023 staff is speaking of the next topic, whether you want to, try and factor in the sign stealing with that staff or not, based off of the NFL talent on this year's team and the NFL talent on last year's team and how they played after, Stallions was basically kicked off the team and other staffers that were immediately known at the time to be associated with them. That team was really, really good and really well developed and well coached, and they were disciplined and they had all the fundamentals right. That's why they are the best Michigan team of all time. This team, night and day difference for a long time in terms of fundamental soundness, in terms of playing to their ceiling, in terms of development, in terms of situational awareness, calling the right plays, knowing what timeouts are, knowing formations. Like the one play where Dan Lanning forced Michigan's one of Michigan's special teams defenders to line up over the center. Penalty. First down. You got to know that stuff. And maybe that's him just being a first-year head coach. But Michigan's a blue blood. And they won a title in 97. They won a title last year. They, if not for Urban Meyer existing, maybe would have won some Big Ten titles in the 2010s. So and I know that's a what if, but the point being, Michigan has been good even recently, outside of just the 2020s. So that's the standard. If you can't win a title at Michigan, in my mind, your tenure should be largely viewed, unless you have sustained success and win several Big Ten titles, as a failure. And I'm not optimistic that Michigan's going to win a title under Moore, at least right now.
Yeah. There's so many more questions I want to ask, but we're running out of time. I wanted to get your thoughts on the Jim Knowles leave-in. You know, I wanted to ask. You kept bringing up.
We can do a few more minutes.
Okay, cool. I think that's what I'll ask. I wanted to ask the Jim Knowles thing, but then I wanted to ask the whole nother show. We'll try to get you on there another time, but like, I wonder if the Blue Blood title ever leaves you, right? Because if you're a Nebraska team, no, never mind. I'm not even going to get into it. That's going to take forever. But thoughts on Jim Knowles, real fast, taking off, and then we'll dive into the old, you know what it is.
How big do you both see the Jim Knowles loss as? Like, obviously not catastrophic, because Ohio State can hire basically anyone. So it's not like, oh, well, the defense is going to suck. But in terms of like almost how good do you view Jim Knowles? How much of a downgrade or loss do you think like his exodus is?
For me, I was more upset with Jim the way he left. I don't feel like this situation was handled that well, and telling players you're coming back, I don't agree with that. But the fact that he left, I'm not upset about it. Really, we won't know the effect until we figure out who Coach Day is going to hire to fill his shoes. Because I feel like the talent that we have on defense, and I know a lot of it's young, but a lot of them got experience this year. They played meaningful snaps. Ever since after that Oregon game, they've started rotating more. And I think that also helped with the defense. So it really, for me, it's about having more of a seamless transition. That's why I would prefer promoting from within with either our DB coach, OG Walt, or with the safety coach, Matt G, only because they already know the system. So you don't have to really change any. And he's been here for 3 years. So we've recruited to play that system specifically. So if you don't have to really, almost like what you guys did, keep hiring the same kind of defensive minds that were playing the same systems. That's why you never really saw a huge drop off over all those years, even though you kept switching coordinators. So that's kind of, I feel like, the blueprint for me. So I think it could be lessened. Yes, I think he was the best DC in the country, but he also had the best talent on that side of the ball in the country, right? So well, it's a wait and see thing for me. I think in terms of Penn State, they need offense, not defense. They've always been a top 10 or a top 5 defense since James Franklin has been there. But their offense is what's killing them, especially the wide receiver position. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. For me, what I don't want to do is, this is kind of a thing, I get annoyed when I hear people keep sending praises to a coach, how good he was, and then the second he betrays or leaves your team, it's, oh my God, he sucked, right? So that's not where I'm coming from here. I love Jim Knowles. I wish he would still be here coaching, but I will say, along the lines of something that Mello said, he was the best defensive coordinator in the nation, right? With an extremely veteran defense and very skilled players playing. Caleb Towns, everybody, right? It's an NFL defense. I'm not sure there's anybody that played on our defense here that's not going to take some snaps in the NFL, okay? So for me, along those lines, sad to see him go, but I never once when I heard this news did I start freaking out. You know what I mean? I just didn't. Why Ryan Day earned my trust this year with the decisions he made and the things he did. He won a national title. So it sucks. And the way he did it and the whole 9 yards, I don't like. But, I mean, let's say 10's freak out, 1's not. If I'm being honest, it's a 5 for me. Like, we're Ohio State. The list is very long of coordinators that want to come, a coach for us. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, my thoughts on Knowles are basically he right now is the nation's best DC. And while I do think Penn State's problems do exist on offense, I think that Kotelnicki being in year 2 really will help. I think that the intriguing part about Knowles is twofold. Number one, the situation he's stepping in at Penn State is unlike any situation he's stepped in before, because Ohio State recruits better, yes, and this year's defense, I don't think Penn State will replicate that in year 1 of him. Absolutely not. But when he took over at OSU, the defense was like barely top 50. When he took over Oklahoma State, it was disgusting. He's taking over like a top 10, top 5 unit at Penn State that's bringing a hefty amount of their defensive starters back. So I think that defense will probably be one of the nation's best. Like, it'll probably be better than the Tom Allen defense, even without Carter, by virtue of the fact that I don't think Tom Allen was a very fundamentally sound, expert, elite DC. The second part of this is I don't have any idea why Ohio State didn't counter the offer from what at least I read. Like, it wasn't $3 million. And I mean, I'm not an insider who knows everything. I'm not friends with like any coaches of any kind, but it does strike me as odd that I don't know. He's the nation's best defensive coordinator. Like, if he has strife with anyone in the staff, I'd rather keep him than other staffers.
Yeah.
If that is what it was, or if he just wanted a pay raise, like, give him a pay raise. Like, he's produced 2 generational defenses back to back. This one was the flashier one. The 2023 one was kind of like the best, maybe the best ever bend but don't break defense. Like, you could not get a big play on that defense ever of like longer than 5 or 10 yards. It was impossible. So I think that at the end of the day, it's not a huge loss for Ohio State. It might sting a little bit because of everyone going out the door and he leaves. But Ohio State's Ohio State. You know, they're going to be a top 5 team. They're going to be competing for a national championship. At the end of the day, I think this says more about Penn State than it does Ohio State.
Yeah, just to let you in real fast on something that we know. We know some people that know some things. The problem with getting rid of the staffer that he didn't get along with is that staffer was the head coach. So, yeah, this was not a money thing. Okay, I know there's that report out there that we didn't offer it, but the information I have from a very reliable source is the offer was matched. But he was leaving regardless. Ryan Day knew he was leaving before the Natty game, right? Yeah. So,
oh wow.
So yeah, it had some. It was him and Ryan Day. After the Oregon game, Ryan Day made him make some changes, and Jim Knowles wasn't having it. And I also heard Jim Knowles' speech today to the Penn State team, and something I didn't know is how much he absolutely loves Pennsylvania. Like, go watch that, and it might change your view on why he left. Yeah, like he would talk about he rode the same subway that most of these kids did to get to school, and I was like, oh, wow. So he loves Philly. He's a Philly dude, loves it, but he left, wasn't money. Ohio State offered him the money. It was him and Ryan Day didn't see eye to eye. But we could talk about that for a while. But we'll move on to the next thing, because what came out today, Michigan leaked some pages from their response to the NOA. And now this topic is another hot topic. People are talking about it. I just want to get your thoughts pretty much about the whole thing. So just talk about it, whatever you want to talk about from the beginning to the end, whatever you want to start at the end, whatever. I just want to hear your thoughts. Did it affect their season? I'll say this. The only thing I'm going to say, everybody knows my opinion on it, but I will say this. They were a very good team. That's what's so confusing and aggravating, is I don't think they needed to cheat to win a bunch of games. So
that's kind of my opinion too.
I'll give you that, but they cheated. You get caught cheating on the math test, you still don't get partial credit. But anyway, so the floor is yours, Sam.
Well, yeah, I mean they did, and that is kind of the unfortunate thing. I think you look at them analytically last year. I mean, their defense. I mean, even the offense, like, very, very dominant, very methodical. Obviously got a bunch of NFL talent, including basically the entirety of this year's D-line that played last year that'll mostly go to the NFL outside of Moore. I think that at the end of the day, my opinion is that Michigan cheated. There needs to be some type of punishment. How severe? I don't know. I need to know like how like severe or egregious like what went on in the sense of like how is it viewed as impacting games. It's a really tricky one because it's not like it's football rules related, but it's not on the field related. And it's hard to always dissect like which games did it affect the most and which games did it affect the least. And I think that I don't know. I mean, I would be shocked if Michigan got anything more than what is essentially a slap on the wrist, just based off of how the NCAA has operated. Like the NCAA for Florida State's recruiting violations, and Florida State took them. Florida State didn't fight. Florida State got like their coordinator suspended for like 3 games. Tennessee fought. Tennessee got away with it. I mean, Michigan, at the end of the day, it's like with anyone who breaks the rules, you shouldn't get away with it. And that's where I think the NCAA needs reform is you can't be this powerless because then no one will take you seriously. And then, like, people will start breaking the rules because they know that they will get away with it. Yeah, I mean, with the whole sign stealing thing, like, I haven't even watched the documentaries they've released about it because it's just like the whole thing where Netflix interviewed Connor Stallions. That's propaganda. You don't need to be a non-Michigan fan to know that a lot of that's a bunch of crap.
Yes.
I think that's kind of my thoughts on it is like, look, if you want to give, here's the maximum punishment that I think Michigan should be given. You want to hear this? Like the maximum punishment?
Yeah.
Vacate all the games where Stallions was on the staff. Just vacate all of those. If Sharon Moore is involved, which it sounds like he is, then you fire him or demand that he is to be fired, and then you leave it at that. It's kind of where I'm at, and maybe if you want to go a step forward, maybe you take away like some of Michigan's revenue sharing and distribute it to the other schools for a year. That's kind of like where I'm at for the maximum. For postseason bans or anything like that, it's like if you're going to do that, the time was 2024. Like in 2025, the roster's going to be somewhat different. The staff will be different. Like you're not punishing the players and or coaches outside of maybe Moore who participated in that in large part.
Now, if they get the maximum and they vacate the wins where Connor Stein was on, that means they were not eligible for a Natty or a Big Ten. Is that where you're at?
I don't know if I think this because it's too close to home or not.
Yeah.
But I do think that with him suspended, and then they beat Penn State, they beat Ohio State, they beat Bama, they beat Washington. I mean, if you want to vacate that and vacate the Big Ten for that year and say, well, they started cheating, so I mean, you know what? Fine, you can do that. But I also think that because he was suspended before then, and then you got to see the product when they didn't have resources, and then they tried, Petiti did, to level the playing field by suspending the coach, Harbaugh, for a day each week, although that didn't really probably do all that much.
No.
You saw the body of work without the wizard and his, illicit methods. And you saw that they, beat Penn State by running an extremely basic playbook. And they beat Ohio State, who I think was one of the best teams that year and certainly an overhated team. They get a bad rap because of that Cotton Bowl, but that's very unfair to that team. I think the years that are harder to judge are 2021 and 2022 because there were never any games where he wasn't sign stealing that they participated in. Like all of those games, there is some type of outside illicit involvement. At least for 2023, you can say before the Michigan State game and then on, well, he's gone. Like he's fired. And then as things begin to come out, more staffers are let go or Harbaugh's suspended at the end of the year.
So my question for you, yes, he was gone, but you think all his work that he did over the seasons and over that season disappeared with him? Or do you think they still were using it?
If I tried to answer that, it wouldn't make any sense because I don't know. I would say that a fair assumption would be it diminished as the year went on, because then teams are like, every team makes adjustments. And of course, when the news comes out, every Big Ten team that isn't coached by a box of rocks says, well, they know our plays, so we got to change them. And then I think as the year goes on, if they still had those assignments, the effects of having them diminish because of the changes. But if I were to try and give you an actual answer, that would be stupid. No,
that's right there is where I think the punishment will encompass the whole season, because he was there partially because no one, not us, not the NCAA, no one really knows how significant everything he did up to the point where he got fired really was. You only do guesswork, and then at that point, you just side on the error that it affected everything.
Yeah, they can use that as leverage. Absolutely. And it's honest, like, is that unfair? No. I mean, they shouldn't have been illegally sign stealing in the first place. If that does happen, if the title is suspended, what'll probably happen in history is it's a lot like, the 2004, 2005 USC teams where, like, it's vacated, but the people are still going to have the memories of it.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Nobody's going to forget that they beat Washington on the field. But I want to shout out my boy Maze Madman that
for sure
in the chat tonight. Sam, this is one of the guys I was talking about earlier. If you get some time, check out his show. Is called Maze Madman.
Yeah, he in the chat catching some heat, son.
Yeah,
and they're catching some heat. But I mean, the thing is, right now is nobody really knows the facts. I mean, so there could be so many arguments one way or the other way, right, and the show could go on for hours, or we could just go back and forth and back and forth. From what I think I know, the only thing I'm really concerned about is that their stuff gets vacated, right? Like, I would think that, Connor Steins was there at the beginning of the year, and to get to the 14 playoff, you can't lose games. And if you're going to vacate games he was there, then really that's, I don't know how many games he was there, but essentially that would be 5 losses, to which you're not going to be in the Big Ten or whatever. But where I'm at, and this, a lot of people are not going to agree with me, but whatever the NCAA does, I'm going to accept, and I trust that they're going to do the right thing. I think that they have the evidence they need, and they're going to come out. They're going to do the right thing. There's a lot of people that are nervous. The NCAA doesn't have the backbone. They don't have this. They don't have that. You brought up the Florida State thing. There are several examples the other way. The Arizona States, the other things where the NCAA has, absolutely thrashed teams, in my opinion, for way less. But Sam, we appreciate you sharing your opinion on that matter, and everything else you did, man. I could sit here and ask you question after question. We could talk for days.
Want to shoot one more question across?
Mello, you got a question for him?
I'll say a question, but I'm going to say something that's going to probably anger a lot of our fan base. I do want them to vacate a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I kind of don't, because I don't want Bryce Underwood to leave. I want to see that head-to-head with TSC. So that's selfishly, for me, that's one of the only reasons that I don't want them to get smashed. But at the same time, I do think if they do, they deserved it. My question is, when's your next live so everybody could tune in and let everybody know where they could find you at?
My next live will be tomorrow. The unfortunate reality of being a full-time college student is that schoolwork sucks, and it takes up a lot of my time. Otherwise, I would do this a lot more often, I do. But my next live show will probably be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We try and go live Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And you guys can just type in College Football with Sam on X, Twitter, or YouTube, and I'll pop up right there, and you can give me a follow that way.
Another question. I'm not asking any football questions right now. It's more personal. What are you studying? I'm just wondering.
I'm studying economics, and I'm trying to get a minor in computer science.
No wonder you're so good with the analytics. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah.
Like, how does he know so much about the analytics with everything? Because I've been watching you for a few years now.
Yeah.
Well, those questions didn't count. So here I go. Do you think changes are going to get made to nil within the next 2 years? And do you think the 12-team playoff seeding will change next year?
I think the 12-team seeding will change next year because I think that all of the bigger schools with money do not like the idea that Arizona State and Boise can get buys ahead of them. I think they hate that. I also think they'll advocate for expansion, but that won't come for another year because of how the contract works. But I do think that by 2026 or beyond that, you'll see hopefully 16 teams. I don't like the whole 14-team thing. I think that's kind of stupid. I think it's like with 12, it's like make it 8, make it 16. I just, for whatever reason, don't like the buys, but I also don't like anyone who says it should go beyond 16. Like that's too much, too many weeks.
Yeah.
I agree.
For your first question, though, changes to NIL in the next 2 years, I don't see how that's happening. I mean, they're doing the revenue sharing thing starting this year, but that isn't NIL. Like collectives can still do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going away for a while because I think that the NCAA and honestly right now the culture of sports at large is not into enforcement. I don't think they are, which is also part of the. Some people accused me when I said I didn't think the NCAA would punish Michigan of me saying it because I'm a Michigan fan. The reality was it's no. The NCAA just has they actually have nothing. They wanted to stop NIL, and they probably had some good arguments to not let it happen. But then the floodgates opened, and they couldn't do anything about it. And I don't see how that's changing right now. I mean, Carson Beck was just paid $4 million for one season to go to Miami.
Is that how much you got? I thought it was 10. But I'm not sure.
It may have been 10. Bryce Underwood was just paid over $10 million. Nico was paid $10 million. That wasn't this year. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what Dylan Raiola's getting at Nebraska, or what Quinn Ewers got at Texas, or even what he got at Ohio State in year one back in 2021. And then, of course, like Michigan's roster this year was over $10 million in NIL. Like, I don't think this is stopping, at least in that time frame. I think it'll take a lot of time, a lot of studying, and I think it will also take some type of consequence, unfortunately, for changes to be made, because the TV executives and the people who run college football can look at the watch numbers, the viewers, the live viewers, the peak viewers, the watch hours, and justify that they're not hurting the sport, because they'll just use bad math and add up all the numbers and say, well, we have even more people watching than we did prior years. It's only because you have more games. I mean, the national championship game for Ohio State and Notre Dame should have had a larger viewing than last year's Michigan and Washington game, because you have 2 blue bloods instead of 1. And Notre Dame and Ohio State's fan base, last time I checked, I think both of them are slightly bigger than Michigan's fan base. Ohio State certainly is by their biggest fan base by a pretty sizable margin. It had less viewers because everyone's burned out. It's NFL time. It's 2 weeks past when the season ended prior. So that's something I actually want to talk about on a future live of mine. Is I think there needs to be scheduling changes, not just NIL changes, but scheduling changes too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
when you
I think this season should start a little bit earlier because they're
Bingo.
not going to lessen the games. We could start earlier in August. That way you could finish earlier. And it also alleviate that. They should get rid of the spring portal. You have to have that first portal because kids still have to go to school and they need to be enrolled wherever they're going to go. But it won't be all at the same time as you're trying to prepare for a national championship, you know? So it gives a little bit of breathing room for these coaches because I'm worried that these coaches are getting burnt out. Not only the players, but yes, the numbers were down because of this NFL season at the time. And when Washington and Team Up North played, it was, I think, January, the 5th?
It was 9th.
9th. The previous year. This year it was January 20th, right in the middle of the playoffs. So college was battling the number one event in all of America at the same time. So yes, that's why the viewership was down. And then Ohio State jumped out to that early lead, so that didn't help anything at all.
No.
Yeah.
My last question for you, real quick, before you bounce.
Hold on, I'm hitting that nil thing real fast, dude. When you have people and money's involved in something and people are receiving money and you see all these court cases happening, I agree with you that I don't think they're going to be able to reel that in anytime soon, man, at all. And
you can't.
Yeah, the thing to remember is everybody keeps acting like the rule that was changed with profit sharing is going to affect nil. I like that you said that. It's nothing to do with it.
It's just going to cause inflation. Like all it's going to do is your average starting QB will cost $5 million now. It's going to suck.
100%. Yep, that's all it's going to do. Literally.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, the Diego Pavia case, where now JUCO apparently doesn't count toward years of college eligibility.
Yeah,
are we going to see a bunch of late 20-year-olds? It's just
yes, we will.
What are we doing?
We're going to have our first 30-year-old quarterback. But Melo's got another. You got time for another question, or you got to get out of here? Okay.
Your prediction for the game next year?
Oh boy!
Yeah, I got to put you on the spot. The hot seat.
No. You're good. You're good. I think people can deduce that for themselves based off of my early top 25 and well, I actually didn't have the time last show to get to my playoff predictions, but that will be tomorrow for all of you who are interested. This will be a sneak peek of that. I think that what makes it hard for Ohio State is Michigan's in your head. You get worse, Michigan should get better, and it's at their place. And for all the talk about, maybe the monkey's off Ryan Day's back because he won it all, well, I've seen Ryan Day coach at an insane level in the playoffs before, like against Georgia and against Clemson, where he destroyed those defenses. I think at the end of the day, the way that Ohio State treats the game kind of shoots themselves in the foot. I think the way Michigan treats it kind of gives them a benefit. And Michigan, for all the, for how much of a cliche it is, they still match up with Ohio State just kind of a little bit, better than the other way around, because they return more in the trenches. Ohio State was better in the trenches this year overall, by the way, but when they played on the field, the Buckeyes couldn't get any pressure. Michigan's D-line did a much better job than Ohio State's D-line, despite not having the same supporting cast. I think that with the upgrades Michigan gets, the downgrades Ohio State has, I think that Michigan will win. It's so weird because in 2021 and 2022, even though I saw that Michigan had a plethora of matchup advantages, it felt intellectually dishonest to pick against Ohio State, given some of the advantages they have and the fact that they just had beaten Michigan that many years in a row. For me, it's starting to feel that way with Michigan over Ohio State, where if this season, if what I say is true, turns out to be true, that Michigan wins for the 5th year in a row, if that happens and and analysts are still picking Ohio State to win, it begins to look like intellectual dishonesty. It begins to look like how it was when people thought, well, Michigan would just win, because it's the year to win, or they'll beat Ohio State like in 2016 or 17 or 18, just kind of because. Like at some point, I think that you always have to look at everything objectively, but there is a mental element to it now that I can't weigh, but it's there. And I think that helps along with home field advantage. Again, Michigan getting better and Ohio State getting worse. Like Ohio State's offense will be better, but I think that the defenses are going to converge and probably play at a similar level. And I think that QB play, well, I'd strongly lean Julian saying over Underwood right now. It's not the same gap as Will Howard and a quarterback who can't pass for 100 yards.
Mhm.
That's like Davis Warren was bad.
Yeah.
He was bad.
Bad.
I'd lean Michigan really with the home field advantage being a tiebreaker. I could never pick anyone unless they were distinctly better than OSU in power ratings to beat the Buckeyes in the shoe. I could never do that. Like unless you were better than OSU analytically, you're not beating them in the shoe without some spiritual intervention.
So I'm going to go off on a rail here real fast. Your way of thinking is on par with like the reality of life for a Buckeye fan here recently. Until last night, until that kid went up to Ryan Day and did what he did. I think that changed everything, man. Something in that moment, dude, I'm praying that something snapped in Ryan Day's mind, and now it is over with for this whole Michigan run that's going on with the rivalry. He's your hero now, Michigan fans, but I want you to remember his face because I think that switch just flipped in Ryan Day's mind when he's going in, dude, to do the late tonight show, man, chilling, smiling, trying to do something nice for a kid, and all of a sudden find out he's getting trolled and can't say anything back because what the kid is saying is true, right? So be careful, man, on cheering that kid on, dude, because he might have just woken a monster, my dude. So I got the Buckeyes next year easily, but that's just me. That's my emotional response to
you gotta hope that I think that what Day needs to do, and I'm no coach, so I'm just probably at this point more of a church mouse than anything else. I think that if Day took the game seriously, but not in this very emotional way seriously, but seriously in the sense that it's a job. And failing at a job, sucks, but it, like I don't know how to describe it. Like view it as a rivalry, but don't view it as this. Don't view it as a ritual. Like that's what I heard when he said we got to run the football. It's like if you just if you tried to get Jeremiah Smith involved, I think you could lose the rushing battle and win. I don't know. That's kind of my feeling on it.
Act like they're Tennessee at this point. Act like they're Oregon at this point. Act like they're Texas.
Yeah.
Act like they're Notre Dame.
Yeah, like view
Dude, I don't care.
View them with the disgust of a rival, but game plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I feel like's been missing is outside of I feel like 2023, the game plan has been more of what they want to view Michigan as rather than what they are. And if they just viewed it a different way, it would be literally that much easier because you have the talent edge, clearly, and the coaching edge.
Or step back and let Chip Kelly game plan or another coach game plan for you because that's all it is to me. You hit the nail on the head. It's a mental block because nothing made sense about this year. The talent, the home game, everything, bro. So, yeah.
One thing I will say is I think actually our team is going to be better this year than last year. Now, defense, I think it's going to take a little time to get to where it needs to be. But I think by the end of the season, it's going to be rocking. Edric Houston, I watched him play since he was in high school. The dude is an animal. He has a 7-foot arm length. Like his length is 7 foot. He's a defensive edge that they moved to D tackle. Caden McDonald, watched him since he was in high school. I live down here in the metro Atlanta area, by the way. Watched him since he was in high school. He's a man-child. He was probably our best run-stopping defensive tackle after Tyleek Williams. Then you got KJ and you got Caden Curry. It's going to look more like our typical pass rush that you're used to seeing from Ohio State instead of the cage rush. Now they probably give up a little bit more on the outside running than JT and Sawyer did, but in terms of getting after the quarterback, it's going to be elite. And then we return Sonny, who's going to have another year. Last year is his first year at linebacker, and Arvell Reese is ridiculous. We have Riley Petterjohn, Peyton Pierce. That linebacker room is ridiculous. TJ Alford. And then we have this, I don't know if you'll be tracking them. I said this before last year about Optimus Prime, but you're going to be tracking a guy named Devin Sanchez. DB, 6'2", long. He's probably going to be over 200 pounds after Coach Mick gets him. Dude is going to have a similar JJ Smith effect. Now, I'm not trying to put any pressure on him, but that's just he's really that good. And then we have Caleb Downs back and Iggy. Like I think the defense by the end of the season is going to be rocking. You had mute.
Oh yeah, you're muted.
We got something to look forward to now. I guess that's one good thing about what has been going on in this rivalry is the beatdown stopped. So it adds a little. Both fan bases now are fully engaged, at all levels. And then this Bryce Underwood recruitment, the Tavian St. Clair recruitment. I'm telling you, this is the best rivalry in all of sports, and it just got better. So
it's easily it's not even, you don't even have to make an emotional argument for it, even though I love the passion from you, because I'm very passionate as well about the game. It's why I talk about it so much on the show. Yeah. It is objectively the best rivalry in not just college football, but sports, due to the size of the schools and the hate between the two teams. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah, they fought a war over Toledo. I mean, it was a literal war fought for this. I mean, no one else could say that.
Bro, this game affects people's lives. I'm telling you, bro. Like, literally, man, it'll affect your year, your life. I love it. I'm all about it. I'm for it. But, Sam, dude, this was an awesome show, man. I could keep talking to you for hours, dude. I'm definitely going to be hitting you up at another time to get back on here and keep asking some questions, man. I had a blast. So you got any final words for everybody in the chat, man?
Only final word I would say is thank you all for engaging. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to follow me, just look up College Football with Sam on YouTube or Twitter, and you'll see me. It's just a black logo that says College Football with Sam with a gold outline. And yeah, that's really it. And thank you guys, Dev and Mello, for having me on. I think you run a great operation and a great show. I'll be making sure to tune in more to what you guys have to say. How often are you guys live?
So we go live Sunday at 5, Monday at 6, and then every Tuesday and Wednesday, 8:45, 9 p.m., and then we got a couple other hosts that go Thursday at 6. So,
sweet.
And look out for the new show on Friday.
Yeah, and then we got a couple recruits' parents.
Well, they're on the team now.
Yeah, a couple of kids that are on the team, both their dads are starting a show on this channel on Friday called Pop's Pod. They're going to talk about recruiting and try to help parents that have questions with recruiting, because you got all these agents taking advantage of families and a whole nother story. So we're trying to give them an avenue to help. But me and Mello got one more thing to cover, but we're going to let you go since you've been on here forever. We appreciate you, man. Our thumbnail has Sam's logo on it, so if you're having trouble finding him, you shouldn't. I typed in college football Sam. He's the first one that pops up.
Yeah.
So right after this show, man, go type that in. Get him a subscription, man. Obviously, the dude's awesome, very smart about football. And get in his chat, man. Get some people to get in his chat and start getting these conversations going, and it'll be a good thing for his channel. So, Sam, we appreciate you, dude. What about an IO? You going to give us an IO? An 08?
IO.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. I love it, bro. All right, my dude.
Yes.
Appreciate
you. Gotta go follow Sam just for that. Like,
yeah, man. Come on, bro. All day.
All
right, Sam. Stay blessed, brother. Appreciate you.
See you guys. Thanks.
That's a good sport right there.
Man.
Yeah, dude.
What I tell you, I've been watching that guy for a few years now. I think I started watching him the same time I was watching Maze Madman. And like, but Sam, yeah, his show was phenomenal. It's fire.
Yeah, it's he leaves emotions out of and has conversations. I love that. I'm all about that. But the only thing I wanted to cover, Mello wanted to talk about this, so I'll let you do your thing. Kaboom, baby.
Yeah. I wanted you to bring that up when Sam was on here.
I know, bro. Ran out of time.
Shout out to Chris Henry Jr., who just stuffed Team Up North beat reporter in a locker. EJ Holland was talking and suggesting that the NIL collective should go chase Chris Henry so that way Bryce Underwood actually has a legit wide receiver to throw to, seeing how Team Up North cannot recruit wide receivers if God came down and gave him a lending hand. And if you look at Chris Henry's response, is a picture of the national champ, Brian Hartline, also the GOAT wide receiver coach all time. I don't care what anybody's saying. He is the GOAT. Nobody has had a run that he's had. Nobody has developed like he has. He's the GOAT. Smoking a cigar. And what's the little emoji? That's it. That's all he needed to do. Like,
yes,
are you crazy? We're not going to the Team Up North. I know Oregon is really trying hard to flip him. All Oregon can do is say, I'm gonna throw you a lot of money, not knowing like his dad played in the NFL for a while. He was a superstar before he passed, unfortunately. Rest in peace. But Pac-Man Jones is also like kind of like his support. How would I say this? He looks out for him basically. So money is not a problem. So you're gonna have to show proof of concept with this kid, and it gets no better than B Heartline. So good luck.
Yeah, to be honest with you, man, the way that this Ohio State coaching staff and this culture have held these players together, because I'm telling you right now, I have on very good authority some of these offers that our backups are getting and even our starters are getting, and I know what Ohio State is paying them, and the fact that they are saying no is wild, bro. It's a lot of money. There's a big difference there. But the other thing is Columbus is such a growing city that just because Ohio State doesn't pay them that much in nil, they can still make that much. You know, a $4.5 million offer in nil to Jeremiah Smith is laughable at this point, because he's probably making $10 million. Why? Because he performed on the field. So Coach Locke says it. Come earn it. Ohio State is the place to come earn it. If you're a good football player and you show up on the field, you're going to make more money in Columbus than you are in any other city, and any of these other teams. You heard it. The largest fan base in the nation by far, right? So, bro, if you believe in yourself and you think you're a baller, man, then money shouldn't mean anything. Come to Ohio State, show it on the field, and you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid, bro. Like, that's a fact, man. It's been proven over and over again. So I'm so pumped to watch these. So within 6 months, the punishment for scum is going to come out. So they got now the NCAA has 60 days to respond to them, and then they got 90 days to set up a hearing, and then they got 30 days after the hearing to whack the final punishment. So that's all 6 months. We're going to find out what it is. I want to point out a very important detail. Somehow their response to the NOA got leaked, right? If it got leaked, that means they were the ones to leak it. They did not leak the entire thing. They only leaked the pages that made this punishment and this whole ordeal seem lesser than. But even in trying to do that, go read it for yourself and you will see that, in fact, they are screwed. I mean, it's over for them. Now, all I care about, I just want... I'm sorry if you don't agree, but I used to want the postseason bans. I really don't care about that anymore. I just want the games they cheated in vacated. That's what I want. I want them. I want it vacated, man. A postseason ban will be like extra dessert, dude. I mean, I won't mind it, but I'm all about the rivalry game. I like anything that makes this rivalry more exciting and better. And bro, I want to see Ryan Day get over this hump, because I know for a fact he can. I don't know where everybody thinks that Ryan Day's never beat them before, but he has. So, little news flash for everybody: he's done it. And they got when he did it, he scared them so bad they didn't want to play the next year. So careful where you're where you're getting your facts from. So, you got anything to say on that, Mello?
I agree. The only reason I don't want it for them to get annihilated is, like I said, I feel like this rivalry is about to go to a whole nother level with the recruiting and having a quarterback from that state against a quarterback from our state. And I feel like we have the better quarterback. That's just how I feel. I feel like they do have an excellent quarterback. I think he's the second best in that class. I don't think he's the best. I think Tavian St. Clair is, and that's no bias of just every competition that they've gone to head to head. Tavian has cleared them, and not by like a little bit. It's been significant. So but at the same time, if they vacate the Natty and they get like 3-4 years postseason ban, then so be it. I mean, you did it to yourself as well. Because if you do get that, I guarantee you we're not getting the Bryce Underwood versus Tavian St. Clair, because Bryce Underwood is going to chuck the deuces and be gone.
Yeah. I don't think vacating wins will affect recruiting, but a postseason ban will for sure.
Yeah.
Bryce Underwood was not staying. A lot of these recruits will not stay. And if you ask me right now, honestly, all emotion aside, like I've looked at this thing intellectually and whatnot, what I think Scum is getting, I think they're getting a lot of wins vacated. I think they're getting their national title vacated, their Big Ten titles vacated, and I think they're getting a postseason ban. Now, you'll hear people say the exact opposite of me. That's fine. Nobody has all the facts yet or anything, but that's honestly what I feel. That is not an Ohio State, Michigan thing. That is literally Devin as a person reading and looking and watching and listening and coming to a conclusion. So maybe
you answered the question before I could ask it. That's the question I was just about to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, now maybe I've been watching and listening and reading the wrong things, and I get proven wrong, but that's what I think. So I mean, that's just what it is.
In alignment with you personally. That's what I think is going to happen as well. I think the NCAA is furious. I think what people are overlooking, the fact that how pissed off Vegas is. They lost a lot of money behind that. And I think Vegas is the catalyst that's pushing this really hard. I also think secretively, a lot of ADs and a lot of coaches from all these different schools across different conferences want them to get punished as well, regardless of what they're saying in front of the camera. They all want them punished. People do not like that. So,
yeah. Well, the other thing is when I was reading, come to find out, it wasn't Ryan Day and his brother and all this stuff, and they're still talking about that, which is very funny to me. It was actually somebody from the Michigan football program that the old turncoat turned on him, snitched on him, and gave the NCAA everything they want to know. And there's multiple people that did that inside the program. But in the letter, unless I read it wrong, it stated that the person that brought this to light was somebody inside the program. So, bro,
absolutely
funny where all the accusation comes from. But all righty, Mello, any closing thoughts, final statements?
Yeah, that's just very interesting. I think one of my closing thoughts is that Team Up North will be the first team to 1,000 wins twice. I think you're going to lose a lot of games. So thank you guys for joining. I want to thank Sam for coming out. College Football with Sam. Make sure you go check him out tomorrow. He's going live. His show is definitely amazing. Please hit that like, subscribe button for us and share, comment down in the comment section. We will respond to you guys, and we can continue this conversation down there. And God bless you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, and shout out prayers for my fault. I want to give a quick update about Tony. He had surgery. They had to remove a bone and then take another bone and put another bone in his foot so that way it connects to his leg. He's casted up. He's heavily medicated, and he's feeling really good. He's not in pain, so keep him in your thoughts and your prayers.
Yeah. As soon as Tony gets better, we're going to do our award show where everybody that's part of the Buckeye Boys is going to come on here, and we'll vote, and we'll give our Buckeye Boys awards out. But appreciate you, fam. Appreciate everybody in the chat showing up, supporting us. Tomorrow, we got Mecha Don coming on. Make sure you stay tuned for that, dude. Thursday, you got the Cujo Mafia coming on here doing their normal show, TG. I think Tony will probably be on. He's at home now. He'll get all medicated up and come on, so beware Who knows
Yeah.
what the heck he's going to say, bro? Who's already off the chain a little bit. Might get wild, bro. You don't know.
Yeah,
But
for real.
and then Friday, Pops Pod, man. And then next week, got another exciting guest for you, man. Got a parent of a
You guys gonna
potential
love this one.
starter next year, man. So let's get it, man. Let's get it.
Yes,
That's
let's
all I
get
got
it.
to say. Let's get it. You know what I'm saying, bro? So appreciate you, Buckeye Nation. We love you. Appreciate you, go Buckeyes OH, fan.
Yo.